Good afternoon. We're here today to talk about the Kendeda building, the most sustainable building on any campus in the U.S. And we're joined today by Barry Berlin, representing the Kendeda Fund, who sponsored the building, and Professor Michael Gamble, representing the School of Architecture at Georgia Tech. So let me start this off. This is a fabulous building and really a great addition to our campus. Barry, can you tell us a little bit about the Kendeda Fund and particularly how you got interested in the Living Building Challenge?
Of course. The Kendeda Fund is the principal charity for Ms. Diana Blank. She's been a philanthropist in Atlanta for 30 or 40 years now, and I've had the great pleasure of working alongside her in this endeavor. About 20 years ago, she made a grant to her alma mater, Mount Holyoke, and one of Ms. Blank's daughters suggested that the building that would be built on Holyoke's campus meet the LEED standard. So Ms. Blank asked me in dealing with Holyoke to pursue that. Of course, I didn't know what a LEED standard was. I didn't know what the acronym was about. It was all brand new. And ultimately, a LEED, I think, either silver or gold building was built at Holyoke. And we all learned what can be done and arguably what should be done with new buildings. That led to a longer journey where Ms. Blank's philanthropy has allowed over 200 buildings belonging to nonprofits or on long lease with nonprofits around the region to sustainably retrofit their facilities so that those nonprofits have, substantially lower utilities costs from their building retrofits. So those are all environmental retrofits. And we've learned a lot about green buildings from that project, from that original grant and some others that she did. Then about 5 or 6 years ago, Ms. Blank, on a trip to the Seattle area, went on a tour of the Bullitt Center, one of the very first living building projects in the United States, led by Dennis Hayes in a foundation in the Northwest. She called me all excited and told me what she was doing. Of course, I'm sitting at my desk, and up on my computer, I pulled up the Bullitt Center to learn a little bit about it. And I saw living building. I didn't know what that meant. I was about as clueless as I was 20 years ago with LEED. But fairly quickly, I took to the bait and said, well, gee, you want us to see if we can make something like that happen in Atlanta? And lo and behold, we have. That led to a journey with learning about the living building. We toured several buildings, Pittsburgh, back up in the Northwest. On a vacation, I toured one in Hawaii. It was just coincidental, and several up in Western Massachusetts. So we learned what living buildings were, decided as a group with Ms. Blank's leadership to do one, and for a little while there had a solution in search of a problem because we didn't really have a building sponsor here in our region. And about that same time, we reconnected with Michael Gamble, your fellow professor there at Tech. Michael had helped the Kendeda Fund with a project some years ago, designing a small, affordable home to very high green standards. And we stayed in touch through the years. And I called him. I said, Michael, we may do this very peculiar hyper green project, but none of us are architects, and I'm afraid that we're going to trip over our shoelaces without some professional guidance and leadership. So Michael got involved. He got some training. I think went up to the Northwest to visit with the Living Building organization. And on his return, and quite sheepishly and very humbly, said, Barry, I think that Georgia Tech might be a good host for a project like this. We became aware of the continuum of ever greener buildings on the Tech campus, Clough and others, big steps along that continuum. Tech having embraced net zero energy and the project for the Eco Commons and other things. And very quickly, we learned, Steve, after meeting with you and some of the other leadership at Tech, that we had a very viable partner. And in fact, we had a perfect partner that brought expertise to the table, a building site that was ideal for this project, a campus plan that would embrace this project with a park-like atmosphere, and frankly, all of the tools and the will to win that would be needed to bring this home. And we never faltered. So thanks to all of the partners at Tech for making this happen, along with the professionals we hired, like Lord Eck and Skanska. Just been a great journey.
Michael, can you talk a little bit about kind of as you thought about this, how Georgia Tech seemed to be a good host for this? I'm not sure it would have occurred to most of us that a university campus is the natural site for this kind of building. Certainly, the Bullitt Center is not on a campus.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been at Georgia Tech now. I had been at Georgia Tech long enough to see all of the infrastructure improvements, which I thought were really unique to college campus culture, especially on the design and construction side. So with the Clough building sort of set the stage for a lot of infrastructure improvements. We knew that the Eco Commons was an idea. Now, this was 6 or 7 years ago when the police department and all of that asphalt occupied this space over a stream that had been culverted about 30 years ago. So there were all of these things that were sort of coming together. I had known Howard for quite a while. He and I were friendly, and we would talk about his vision and campus leadership's vision for the campus. And it just felt right. I remember leaving the Bullitt Center. Barry and the Kendeda funds sent me out there to look at several projects. And I remember coming home and thinking, wow, Georgia Tech is perfect for this. I wonder how that would work out. And here we are. I mean, I thought a lot about it this morning. I was out getting my exercise. And from start to finish now, from when Barry and I reconnected until today, it's sort of closing a chapter or even a book on how we could move forward collectively. And remember, we had the academic side, we had design and construction, we had planning, we had operations and maintenance, and we had finance all at the table from day one. And not only did we create what I think is a really unique building, but more importantly, we've created a process that we would like to see replicated. And we've also created a non-denominational space on campus for the free exchange of ideas around what it means to be in a healthy building. What is the future of building and construction? What types of spaces could we create that might inspire greater learning or greater cross-disciplinary conversation? So Tech, to get all the way back to your initial question, was very ready for this challenge.
So Barry, did you look at any other sites around Atlanta? Did you decide you wanted to do it in the Southeast because the Southeast with the humidity and the heat is a particular challenge?
Well, we thought originally that our goal was to prove out that a building like this could be done in our temperate climate. So much of the world is in temperate climate, not just in the United States, but in Asia and other continents. And we felt that this was worth proving that we could bring this project home in a high humidity environment, particularly. And I guess we've been able to do that. We did consider some other partners prior to Tech, but as I was saying earlier, it's pretty obvious after the first meeting that our partner needed to be Tech. We did have some meetings with leadership at Tech about where on campus. In one of the early meetings that I remember attending, Michael, I can't recall, or Steve, if you were, either of you were there, but folks in the Howard Wertheimer's department at Tech had done a study of different sites on campus, the heat effect, the direct sunlight on those sites at different times of day, the breezes on those sites, and the like, to really help us hone in on a particular corner or lot, if you will, at Tech that would maximize our solar efficiency, yet have some shade from trees in times of day when that was needed, and really be in an area campus where there'd be enough student interest and traffic for the building to be seen. We didn't want it to be a flashlight under a blanket kind of thing. So the site that we arrived at, of course, was a parking lot. First few times we walked it, and there wasn't much around it except asphalt and some pretty scruffy surroundings. Of course, you go over there now, you'd never know what it was before, so again, I think the research that Tech provided and the guidance that Tech provided and just the site availabilities that Tech had made this the ideal site.
Have you been pleased with sort of I know we're just coming out of the pandemic, but sort of how it's been fulfilling that educational mission as an exemplar to what's possible in terms of construction?
Well, I'm going to pass the baton to Michael because very early in the process, Michael led an effort at Tech to engage both academic leadership and students in a variety of projects that fed into the design and ultimate construction of the building. So from the very beginning, it was intended as and really fulfilled its mission as an educational tool. Michael, can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Yes, that's correct. Georgia Tech, the culture at Georgia Tech is very problem focused, but problems are opportunities. And I was so impressed with the way in which everyone embraced the idea because there was nothing to begin with but some discussion. But the discussion really took off. So it's exceeded my expectations. I hate to sound like a Pollyanna here, but the whole process completely exceeded my expectations. We had wonderful faculty participation almost from day one. As soon as you get the faculty involved, the students get involved. And vice versa. Then we had a lot of students getting involved who said, wait a minute, why isn't our faculty participating in this? And it's just led from one thing to another. Just recently, we hosted our first climate change and design of the built environment symposium and completely impressed with people who joined us from all over the world. It was one of the benefits of the pandemic. And I'll say it had the smallest carbon footprint of any symposium that I've ever led. So the educational component is in high gear. I think our big effort now is, I like to say, direct the bullhorn off of campus. We're broadcasting to community and industry partners, and that's next level for us.
Michael, can you tell us a little bit about some of the programming that's upcoming in the building?
Well, we're going to reopen for all of you listening or maybe listening 5 or 10 years into the future. Remember, we're coming out of a serious pandemic here globally that has had us all in hibernation almost for the last 14 months. So the building will reopen formally along with the campus for full-time face-to-face instruction for September of 2021. And the programming just continues to click right along. I think our big goal, again, upcoming is to invite community and industry partners in. But Sean Aurora, who is the director of the Kendeda Living Building, and I both share a common interest in filling the building with song and dance. That got pulled out from under us as we all went underground. And we have this vision of once a month having a cultural event in the building that would include something besides Georgia Tech nerds talking about the math and performance. Now, one other thing that I would like to make clear, everyone knows that we have passed certification. And this is exciting for me because, frankly, a lot of us want to start testing parts of the building to failure, which we couldn't do during certification. We took not a conservative approach. I mean, we took a smart and I think ambitious approach to getting through certification. But now that we have that behind us, I think we're going to hear of a lot of interesting technologies being tested around that eco commons.
I'll be interested to be at a dance party when we say how many decibels the building can sustain.
Well, for those listeners out there, you'll note when you visit how great the acoustics are because the entire building's made out of wood. There are some wonderful acoustic properties in there. And I have to say, top-notch classrooms. One of my anecdotes is I think I was educated by some of the brightest people in the world in some of the dullest, most terrible classrooms you could ever imagine. And now we've evolved to the point that our auditoriums and our classrooms have windows. You can look outside, the windows open, they ventilate well, the acoustics are good. So that's a big step for us too. I mean, that's a real step in the right direction.
Given that you have this victory under your belt, does the Kendeda Fund have any plans to do another living building?
Well, as you might imagine, a few other building sponsors have invited Kendeda to learn about their projects, and but that's what happens. But yeah, the short answer to your question is no. The Kendeda Fund is originally conceived and set up by Ms. Blank will sunset at the end of 2023. And it would have, any number of achievements as building high amongst them to look back on, but will not be a continuing funder of projects beyond that date horizon. And, to respect that, it wouldn't be wise to start another project of this magnitude, in the couple of years that remain. But we're perfectly willing to consult with other building sponsors and share the playbook, if you will, and as I think Tech is, and broadly encourage folks to either take up the challenge or incorporate some aspects of what we've accomplished here and what we've learned from that. Whether that's an energy component or a water component or an equity component, which I think we probably don't talk about enough. There are a lot of takeaways from a project like this that could be implemented in a variety of other projects, and I hope we see some of that.
Talk a little bit, maybe Michael, about how the equity component was addressed in this building.
We had active participation from Serve, Learn, Sustain at Georgia Tech, and that's one of their missions: service-based learning. That's been a real driver of the equity discourse to have Ruthie Yao and Jennifer Hirsch and a whole group of people from campus who were connected over diversity issues and equity issues. And we're seeing now, I mean, again, it's been a tumultuous year, but we're seeing equity being discussed, not in a reactive way, but as an intellectual and constructive conversation. And I think that's been a real benefit. I mean, we've been through a lot of tragedy this year, and the living building has helped create a space to carry those conversations on. And for those of you listening and watching, click on the Living Building webpage at Georgia Tech and look at the advisory board. Look at the diversity of the advisory board that we've assembled. And you'll see that Georgia Tech is taking equity very seriously.
Let me give a specific example of how equity played into a fairly finite aspect of the project. In the building, one of the uh, signature features. The ceiling panels are aligned 2x6s, and about half of those are recycled and half are virgin, and you can't use purely recycled because of load bearing issues around code. But there are over 450 of those panels, and they were constructed by a team from a nonprofit named Georgia Works. Georgia Works seeks to put formerly homeless and formerly incarcerated folks to work, earning hopefully a living wage. And we had a crew from that agency. When that agency, it really is coincidental, is a Kendeda grantee through another avenue, construct these panels, and they were, of course, put in place by Skanska, the contractor. So, and a number of the employees at Georgia Works were ultimately employed full time in construction trades based upon the experience and work ethic that they demonstrated on the project. So that's a direct equity aspect of the project that also fostered a recycling, reusable materials aspect of the project. We might have had lots of 2x6s, but if we didn't have a team to put them together in a usable format, so what? Anyway, the building is full of 2 + 2 = 5 kind of examples. That's one of the better ones, I think.
The living building is perched right on top of the Eco Commons, and is actually a magnet that draws people to that area to see that living landscape. And I think that the transition of that, the transformation actually of that wasteland into a functioning landscape with a beautiful, super sustainable building is just an incredible outcome.